Americans in Italy stare in disbelief as locals casually eat gelato for breakfast. Wait, you mean I can't have bacon and eggs at AM with gelato? One exclaims. Somehow, it's socially normal to enjoy sweet cold dessert while walking through cobblestone streets. A group of Americans visiting Japan gasp at vending machines that sell hot meals, umbrellas, and even ties. So, you don't need a store. One whispers. Coins clink as sushi pops out like magic. While touring France, Americans see locals sipping red wine at noon. Isn't that work hour? Someone whispers nervously. The casual elegance of a tiny café terrace, wine glasses clinking, completely shatters expectations. Americans visiting Sweden are shocked when a public park has a sauna. You mean we can just walk in and sweat with strangers? One asks. Elderly locals calmly enjoy the heat while birds chirp outside. In Thailand, Americans are startled to see street vendors selling fried insects. You mean people actually choose to eat crickets? One asks, eyes wide. Crunchy, spicy, and seasoned. Locals happily snack while chatting. Americans in Spain observe locals taking siestas in the middle of the day. People just sleep at 300 p.m. One whispers. Shops close, streets empty, and tranquility sweeps over the town. In Switzerland, Americans gape at chocolate shops where bars are bigger than their heads. How do you eat that? One asks, trembling slightly. Prices astronomical. Sizes unbelievable. Visiting Dubai, Americans are flabbergasted by indoor ski slopes. Wait, you can ski inside the desert? One exclaims. Snow lifts in powder in 110 degrees Fahrenheit heat outside. It makes no logical sense. Americans in South Korea notice cafes where you pay to pet raccoons and hedgehogs. You mean coffee and furry therapy? One asks in awe. Patrons sip lattes while tiny animals roam freely. While in Germany, Americans discover restaurants where every dish is made from potatoes. Fries, dumplings, mashed, baked, potato diversity overwhelms the mind. Wait, potatoes are the menu, one asks. Americans visiting Morocco gape at markets where spices explode in color and scent. Wait, are these smells legal? One asks, eyes watering. Locals pile saffron, turmeric, and chili into bags like casual shopping. In Iceland, Americans are stunned by hot springs in the middle of frozen landscapes. So, you just soak while snow falls? One asks, shivering. Steam rises like magic. Locals lounge like royalty. Americans in India stare at street vendors selling snacks shaped like tiny animals. You mean edible elephant-shaped dumplings? One asks, blinking. Locals munch without a second thought. In Australia, Americans are shocked to see kangaroos casually hopping through suburban streets. Wait, are these neighborhood pets? One whispers. Locals wave calmly. Americans visiting the UK encounter pubs where meals come with unexpected exotic condiments. You mean Marmite on toasted dinner? One gasps. The locals' nonchalance is infuriatingly impressive. In Mexico, Americans are floored by markets selling glowing candy and edible glitter. Wait, people eat glow-in-the-dark treats. One asks local snack while laughing. Americans in Japan notice toilets that play music, heat seats, and even spray water in precise directions. So, the bathroom is a spa. One asks, half joking. Locals barely glance. While in Brazil, Americans see dancers practicing samba in public squares at dawn. Wait, this is normal exercise. One whispers, bewildered. Locals glide effortlessly, smiles wide. Americans in Italy are stunned to see grocery stores selling fresh pasta by the kilo. Wait, we don't buy pasta like bricks, one asks. Locals measure, weigh, and walk away proudly. In Norway, Americans spot people cycling to work in sub-zero temperatures. Wait, they're not in cars. One asks, shivering. Locals pedal like it's a sunny spring day. Americans in Greece are stunned to see locals taking entire dogs on motorcycles. Wait, the dog rides with you? One asks, helmets optional. Safety optional. Locals zoom past calmly. Americans in Argentina stare at tango classes held in public plazas at midnight. Wait, dancing lessons outside at night? One asks. Couples glide effortlessly under streetlights while locals cheer. Americans visiting Finland are shocked to find libraries with sound inside. Wait, you read and sweat? One asks, confused. Patrons alternate between silence and steam. In Turkey, Americans gape at markets where cats roam freely and locals feed them like royalty. Wait, the cats rule? One asks, bewildered. Locals shrug. Americans in China discover restaurants with dishes that magically change color when cooked. Wait, the food transforms. One gasps. Locals barely notice. While in Italy, Americans see coffee served standing at bars with locals sipping in seconds. Wait, you just gulp espresso and go? One whispers. Locals chatter and leave casually. Americans in the UAE marvel at gold-plated everything from ATMs to desserts. Wait, money literally grows on walls. One asks, stunned. Locals stroll past with total nonchalance. In Japan, Americans are shocked by trains arriving exactly on time every time. Wait, you mean punctuality is normal? One asks, locals calmly board and exit. Americans visiting the Netherlands see bicycles with baskets carrying entire families. Wait, the kid rides in front of the parent. One whispers. Locals pedal calmly. In Mexico, Americans stare at markets selling candy shaped like tiny skulls for festivals. Wait, you eat bones? One asks, horrified yet fascinated. Locals smile proudly. Americans visiting Japan are completely flabbergasted by themed cafes where you can sip coffee while interacting with owls, hedgehogs, or even reptiles. Wait, this is socially acceptable? One asks, blinking in disbelief. Patrons stroke tiny animals, take selfies, and chat without a hint of hesitation. Outside, the streets bustle normally, but inside it feels like a magical, parallel universe. Suddenly, American cafes with their soft music and lukewarm lattes feel painfully predictable. And every boring coffee shop back home seems like a sad, grayscale version of what the world can offer. In Iceland, Americans gape at locals swimming in geothermal hot springs surrounded by snow-capped mountains. Wait, you're comfortable while freezing just outside? One whispers. Steam rises, birds chirp, and tourists in bulky jackets stare in awe. Locals laugh, chatting casually as if this is the most ordinary activity in the world. Americans quietly question their notions of cold weather and relaxation, realizing that bathtubs, hot tubs, and ordinary pools back home feel utterly inadequate. Suddenly, the combination of snow, heat, and nature feels like a mystical experience far beyond imagination. Americans in Italy are shocked when they witness locals eating entire meals standing at coffee bars. Wait, you eat and drink espresso in 30 seconds? One asks incredulously. The baristas pour locals sip and people chat while barely pausing. Americans struggle to process how efficiency, socializing, and indulgence coexist. Sitting down for an hour with a cappuccino suddenly feels unnecessarily complicated and slow. In a tiny moment, everything they thought about enjoying food and drink is challenged, making their long, leisurely breakfasts back home feel oddly inefficient and over-engineered. While visiting Thailand, Americans are horrified yet fascinated to see floating markets selling everything from fresh fruit to tiny motorized boats filled with souvenirs. Wait, people sell boats on boats? One gasps. Locals paddle skillfully, exchange goods, and navigate narrow canals like seasoned pros. Crowds of shoppers and tourists float alongside them, cameras clicking incessantly. Americans can't stop staring, completely mesmerized by the chaotic, colorful, and utterly ingenious system. Suddenly, shopping in wide, orderly American supermarkets feels painfully dull.